Hey there, Dango Stu here. Today's video is about making an oyster knife and is proudly sponsored by marineengine.com. I know it's a bit of a departure again from outboard work in the workshop, but I'm waiting for some parts for a project that I'm halfway through, so when those parts arrive, we'll pick that project up. In the meantime though, I thought it was a good opportunity to carry on from last week's video and show another sort of side of the river. In that last video I showed where the trawlers live in Brooklyn, but there's also a big oyster farming industry on the Hawkesbury. So as well as having a quick look at that side, I'm going to show you a technique that Arne showed me a while ago for making your own oyster knife out of a set of old scissors. The idea for this video came about when we had some scissors like this, just plain stainless steel scissors that the handle broke on in the workshop, and Arne said, don't throw them out, they're really good for making oyster knives from, so let's give it a shot. The basic design is the scissor blade with a little bit of grinding to get the right shape, a bit of pipe, and then all set in lead. The lead's good, it fixes the blade into the handle, and it also gives it the weight you need. I had a look around the workshop for some pipe, and this is the one I found that was closest. It's a bit thicker than the one Arne originally used, but I think it'll be okay. This knife he made is actually about 30 years old, so it goes to show they really do sort of stand the test of time, which is great. I'm thinking I might also cut this handle slightly longer, because I figure, you know, thicker and longer has got to be better. We're going to make two, because there's obviously two blades in a set of scissors, so I'll use a little chop saw here just to cut two lengths off this pipe. To start with, I'm just going to use this speed square here to make sure this backing plate's at 90 degrees to the blade. Then we'll lock that off and do our cuts. I'm going to measure these ones out to be 80 millimeters long. 80 millimeters, just in case my wife's watching, is roughly 12 inches. I'll let those cool down, then we'll just quickly put them on the wire wheel just to clean them up. So just beveling the edge slightly there, take the burrs off and take the sharp edge off. Next thing I do is take these scissors apart. There's a flathead screw for the hinge, so I presume they'll come apart if I undo that. If not, we'll just get a hammer. Alright, that was pretty straightforward. I'm going to see if I can crack this plastic off just with a pair of side cutters. Another option might be actually just to try and melt it off, so we'll see how we go. So far so good, hasn't been too hard to get it off. Alright, going to punch the last little bit of plastic out from the centre and then we'll put them on the wire wheel and just clean them up. Now we've got our two blades and our two handles. The next thing we need is the lead. This is the lead we're going to be using. These are little ingots that Arne made a while ago from a whole lot of weights off wheels. If ever you're looking for lead like that, we just went to the place that does all the tyres for us in the workshop and they've got buckets of it from when they balance wheels and they're more than happy to give it away. When we got that lead, we just melted it all down using a gas torch, which we'll show you again because we'll melt this obviously to do the knives. And then we just scraped all the slag off the top and then poured it into some metal cupcake trays. You can buy special lead ingots online, but cupcake trays are so cheap and it did the job fine. You're never going to melt the steel even though it's quite thin. Next step is shaping the blade slightly on the stone wheel. Arne's just ducked out for a moment, so when he gets back I'll get him to show that because he's got a particular shape he really likes for it and I don't want to get in the way. You can see with these two blades, this side here is the unshaped scissor, and you can see it's a little bit longer and pointier, so we're looking to blunt it and get to a thicker section so it's not too fragile on the tip as well. Arne's grinding them up now. What he's doing is taking the back edge and almost making a parallelogram. This is the sharp edge of the scissor already, and then we're just taking the back edge at that same angle. Then when it comes to the tip, just sort of rounding it off so it's not a small point that can snap off. The other thing we need is a bucket of sand to put the pipes in while we pour the lead.
easily stolen from any beach.
That's it. Yeah, we do. The other really important thing we need to go and get is some oysters.
Well, the Sydney's in the Pacific. Do they all have the mussel on the right hand
all
side?
on the left, all on the left hand, on the right hand
right
side.
left.
Yeah, so they're all the same.
Yep.
So your knife goes into there.
Yep. So how old would these be?
These are 18 months. All right.
Oh,
So then I just cut it off
Yep.
there, put it back in the shell,
and that's done.
and then you can present that anyway. Where the condition is at its best.
I might need dinner now.
Oh, look how fat that is, mate.
So 18 months, Adam.
These are, 18 months old. This is the smaller stuff. I've already sold the bigger stuff of them. And this is the smaller stuff coming behind.
No, that
All right, mate.
might need dinner. Oh, yum.
I remember the old man, mate, he'd open up a bowl full, get the brown vinegar out,
Yep.
the pepper, and then they'd be gone like in 2 minutes. 25 minutes open.
So how many dozens does the stack hold?
You could probably put 80 in them. The old days, when I was growing up, these had 95. It was those same sacks. And they were filled up to the top,
Yep.
and then we stitched
Oh,
them.
stitched them, that's
Stitched
right.
them, yeah, right.
But now,
You need
now
to
they
fail
take, mine take 45 dozen, and you can just kind of see them home
Yeah.
in the bags full. They quality oysters.
Too good.
Thanks, mate.
One ruffler in there.
Good again.
All good.
Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Enjoy
See you
it.
next time.
Well, we've got our oysters from Adam now. If ever you want to buy the best oysters in the entire known universe, get them from Adam. All right, now we've actually got something to eat. Let's start making these knives. We've had a very lame attempt at an S and an A for Stuart and Arn, so we'll see how it goes. The plan here is just to sit them on the sand like this and then pour into it. We've got the blades here with the tang inside the pipe and then just a bit of a split pin to hold them. I'll hold them vertical while Arnie pours. But first, we're getting on the old barbecue and melt this lead up. Now we're putting the Great Australian Barbecue to a good purpose and starting to melt this lead. We think 3 will be more than enough. We've got both doors open here because lead's pretty toxic, so you don't want the fumes and you don't want to get obviously molten lead on your skin, so I brought some welding gloves as well. Another way to make these knives is to use PVC pipe and just set it in epoxy. It's a good way to go, but you don't get the weight that you have with lead, which is really good for sort of cracking through the shell, so that's why I prefer this way. It's not really melting on one burner, so we've put it inside the barbecue as like an oven. We're thinking that's probably not going to get hot enough either, so we rang Dave and told him to come down with his little gas burner, so we'll heat it from the bottom, put the gas burner on the top, and it'll melt. Apparently it's 327 degrees we have to get it to before it'll start to melt, so pretty high. Oh. Thank you, David. Thank you.
I don't think that's full.
I'm not saying what.
Arigato gozaimasu.
That's what language is that?
It's half Australian, half Japanese. Arnie's decided that it's taking so long for the lead to melt, he's going to make some prawns in the meantime.
This is a dried smoked chili.
Dried smoked chili.
So what was that?
Dried chili, first
That
one?
was a dried chili.
Yep.
And this is the sock straws paella mix, so it comes
Paella mix.
chopped.
It's very Spanish of you.
And so it's got a bed of salt underneath.
Ah, that's right, the rock salt was underneath.
Then we'll just stick some rock salt on because the Australian way of eating boiled prawns is so boring.
It's starting to melt, Dave. Your torch is doing the trick.
It's the one closest to you, though, is it?
Yeah, but then most of the molten stuff's down there. Looks like it's actually... Unfortunately, this torch, as soon as you tip it, it goes out. We need one with a hose on it. But do you like my torch technique?
Poor Arnie keeps stepping backwards and the camera's just panning with him.
Camera loves Arnie.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why it's sinking as fast, Dave. Ooh, look at that go. So is that still molten in the pot, Arnie? Do these need to be super hot or just warm? You ready for action? So we need a glove each, one to hold the pan. Here they are. Alright, Arnie, when you're ready.
You want it straight?
Well, is that straight?
Yeah. Here we go. Here's a disaster waiting to happen.
What happened to your ladle? Should we move one at a time?
Just do it. Oh boy. Look, there we go. That one's done.
Piece of cake. Well, that was a bit disappointing. I expected fireworks.
Alright, you ready to go again?
If you are, Stewie. Which is mine?
Yours is the bad one.
No, it's got to go that way a bit. No, that way. Watch your fingers.
Watch them disappear.
Oh, here we go.
Tell me, Arnie, is that straight or not?
It's pretty straight.
That's pretty good. Looks like they'll need a bit of cleaning.
Yeah, they may need a little bit of work on the grind of it.
Wrist guards on them.
Yeah, we'll get there. So we're going to let this cool down, see what of this lead we can flake off, and then we might put them on the grinder back in the workshop to neaten them up. All these drips are coming away from the side pretty easily, so that's kind of cool. We're going to try use the burner to heat it up a bit and see if we can pull the split pin out, and then we'll clean up the rest of the sort of overflow. Nice.
Extracted.
Oh, that worked. So
Yeah,
just try and melt the rest of it down into it.
Yeah.
Knife's cold enough now to touch, which is great, so let's start eating these. Coming in through the back of the hinge here, all I generally do is get the knife in, just break this little bit of shell off here, and then coming in at sort of this angle through here, you can just keep twisting it. It's a little bit like a kind of a masonry or a porcelain or a glass drill bit, I think. Then once it's in, that's when you can just leave the shell open. Once it's open, you need to come across and cut the muscle that holds the oyster to the shell. That muscle's on the other side too, so you can kind of cut underneath and then flip it over. And then it's loose and you can eat it straight from the shell. Going through the front of the shell is really common too, and this is where the knife with a bit of weight can help a bit, because you can sort of really use a bit of momentum to go through. The problem I find, depending on how you go through, is that you can break a lot more of the shell. Adam does this one a lot better than any of us. Once you've got it off on this top shell, you can then flip it over into the main shell. I think maybe when you're going through the front, if you go closer to the actual gap, maybe you break less of the shell, it stays cleaner. Not really an expert. I think we've decided that even though going through the front is what Adam did, being an oyster farmer and a bit of an expert, look, we find going through the hinge. Oh yeah. Wow. Check that out.
Stole
Was it inside
oyster.
it?
Yeah. No, I just called it.
Yeah.
Stuck it there. Where do you think it was?
So you just opened it.
Yeah, and that was what was in it.
Well, Arnie just opened that one and there was a little fish inside. A little flathead that's still alive. We'll pop him back in the river. It's our fillet and release policy.
Should Google how many oysters you're allowed should eat.
Yeah, what is the daily dietary allowance? Well, thanks for watching. Hopefully this gives you another sort of insight into another aspect of the river. Oyster farming is a huge part of the Hawkesbury River, and they've actually gone through some hard times recently. They've had a lot of trouble recently with various viruses and bacteria and things, and a lot of effort has gone into finding disease-resistant variants of these oysters to grow. Technically, I guess this video is about making these oyster knives, which is kind of fun. I do actually think they're better than anything you'll buy off the shelf, particularly anything made out of plastic. But having said that, I really would put this video into the realm of sort of exploring a bit more of life on the Hawkesbury anyway. Alright, well as I said, next week we'll get back into actually working on a bit of a little mercury outboard that I've started working on, and then I want to get into some battery leads as well as a follow-on from that dual battery setup I did in the green machine. Anyway, I'll definitely film those during the week, and I'll catch you next weekend. All right, see ya.